The smoke grenade detonates. Chaos erupts. 20 elite security trainees scatter like confused children as simulated gunfire echoes through the maze of shipping containers. Their instructor, a muscular ex-Marine named Derek, barks orders from the observation tower. Nobody's listening anymore. The mock hostage situation has spiraled into complete disaster. And standing at the edge of it all, watching the catastrophe unfold, is a woman nobody even notices. Riley Matthews, 28 years old, 5'4", quiet, forgettable, the new assistant instructor who showed up 3 weeks ago with her neatly tied ponytail, oversized jacket, and eyes that never quite met anyone's gaze. Nobody takes her seriously. Not Derek, not the trainees, not even the admin staff who misspell her name on the roster. When she tried to suggest a different approach to today's exercise in the morning briefing, Derek had basically shut her down. "Sweetheart, why don't you stick to filing reports and let the real operators handle tactics?" The trainees had snickered. Riley had gone silent, shrinking back into the corner of the room, like she always does. Now, as the training exercise collapses into humiliating failure, she stands there, small, unnoticed, seemingly powerless. But there's something they don't know about her. Something she's kept hidden. And in about 30 seconds, everything is going to change. Riley Matthews wasn't supposed to be here. She'd taken this job at Blackstone Security Training Academy because she needed something quiet, something normal. After years of a life nobody here could imagine, she wanted to disappear into the background, collect a paycheck, avoid attention. On paper, she was just another administrative hire with a vague military background, the kind of person you'd never look at twice in a crowded room. Exactly what she wanted. What nobody at Blackstone knew, what nobody could know, was that Riley Matthews had spent the last 8 years as a hand-to-hand combat instructor at Naval Special Warfare Center. Not for regular sailors. For Navy SEALs. She trained some of the deadliest operators in the world. Men twice her size had tapped out beneath her holds. Elite soldiers had learned to fear the quiet woman who could dismantle their techniques in seconds. She held certifications in Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, tactical weapons retention, and close-quarters battle strategy that most people couldn't even pronounce. But teaching SEALs had cost her everything. The pressure, the politics, the trauma of watching students she trained come home in caskets. After her last class graduated and deployed to a mission that went sideways, a mission where 3 of her students didn't come back, Riley had walked away. She'd buried her credentials, changed her resume, and accepted this civilian training position under the radar. She wasn't hiding from the enemy. She was hiding from herself. The first week at Blackstone, Riley had watched Derek run drills that made her physically wince. Tactical errors everywhere. Trainees learning bad habits. Dangerous techniques that would get someone killed in a real situation. She tried gently to offer feedback. Derek had shut her down in front of everyone. "I've got 15 years of Marine Corps experience. What do you have? A college degree and a nice smile." The trainees had laughed. Riley had stopped speaking up. Week 2, one of the trainees, an arrogant ex-cop named Marcus, had started the jokes. "Hey Riley, can you grab us coffee? Riley, did you get lost on the way to the yoga studio? Maybe we should get you a helmet. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself watching us work." She'd endured it silently. Week 3, during a defensive tactics demonstration, Derek had pulled her in front of the class. "Riley, come here. Let's show these guys a basic wrist escape." He'd grabbed her arm roughly, clearly planning to demonstrate on her like she was a prop. "See, when someone grabs you like this." Riley had gone completely still. Every instinct in her body had screamed to reverse the hold, drop him to the mat, make him regret touching her. But she'd swallowed the reflex, let him finish his sloppy demonstration, walked away while the trainees whispered about how weak she looked. That night, alone in her apartment, Riley had stared at the framed photo buried in her closet. Her in full training gear, surrounded by her last SEAL class, warriors who trusted her with their lives. She'd almost thrown the photo away. Almost. Now, standing in the smoke-filled training ground, watching Derek's disaster of an exercise collapse, Riley feels something shift inside her. Something she's been pushing down for months. Something that refuses to stay buried anymore. One of the trainees, a young woman named Jenna, one of only 3 female recruits, is pinned down behind a barrel. The simulation has gone off script. 2 role players acting as hostiles have gotten too aggressive. Jenna is clearly panicking, unable to execute the escape sequence. Derek isn't intervening. He's too busy yelling at everyone else. Riley sees Jenna's hand trembling on her training weapon. She sees the girl's breathing accelerate toward hyperventilation. She sees exactly how this ends. Another woman washing out of the program because nobody bothered to teach her properly. Something breaks. Riley moves. She doesn't think, doesn't hesitate. Muscle memory takes over. 8 years of muscle memory that doesn't know how to stay quiet anymore. She crosses the 30 feet to Jenna's position in seconds, moving with a precision that makes the chaos around her seem choreographed. She drops beside Jenna, her voice calm but commanding. Breathe 2 counts in, 4 counts out now. Jenna's eyes go wide. I can't there. Yes, you can, watch me. Riley stands. The 2 role players round the corner, training weapons raised. They're expecting Jenna, easy prey. They get Riley instead. She doesn't hesitate, doesn't warn them. Her movement is liquid, economical, beautiful in its efficiency. She closes the distance before the first role player can react, redirects his weapon with one hand while her other hand strikes his solar plexus. Controlled, precise enough to make him double over without causing real injury. She uses his falling momentum to pivot into the second role player, executing a textbook weapons retention technique that strips his training rifle in less than a second. Both men are on the ground before anyone watching can process what happened. The smoke begins to clear. Everyone stops. Derek's voice cuts off mid-sentence. Riley stands in the center of the kill zone, holding a training rifle she's just taken from 2 men twice her size, her breathing barely elevated. Jenna stares up at her like she's witnessing a magic trick. Marcus, the cocky ex-cop, has his mouth literally hanging open. What the hell was that? Derek finally sputters, climbing down from the observation tower. Riley hands the training weapon to Jenna. That was the technique you should have taught them 3 weeks ago. Weapon retention, close quarters disarm, and situational dominance. She meets Derek's eyes for the first time since she started working here. Sir. The entire training ground has gone silent. Derek's face flushes red, not with admiration, with humiliation. You think you're hot shit, he snaps, storming toward her. You get lucky with 2 role players who weren't expecting you, and suddenly you're an expert. Riley doesn't respond. Fine, Derek turns to the trainees. Everyone gather up, change of plans. He points at Riley. Our assistant instructor here thinks she can do better, so let's test that. He gestures to Marcus and 3 other trainees. All men, all former military or law enforcement, all built like linebackers. 4-on-1, full contact defensive drill. Let's see if she can back up that cute little demonstration. The trainees exchange glances. This isn't standard protocol. This is Derek's ego talking. Riley should walk away, should refuse, should remind him that she's not here to prove anything. But she sees Jenna watching, sees the other 2 female recruits in the crowd, sees how every woman here is holding her breath, wondering if Riley will fold. She thinks of her SEAL students, of the last conversation she had with Lieutenant Commander Dawson before she left the program. You're the best instructor I've ever seen, Matthews. Don't let the world make you small. Riley removes her jacket. Underneath, she's wearing a simple black athletic shirt. Her arms are lean but defined, the kind of muscle that comes from functional combat training, not a gym. Full contact, she asks quietly. Derek smiles cruelly. Full contact. Okay. The four trainees form up. Marcus grins. Nothing personal, Riley. I know, she replies. Then she adds, you should fix your stance. Your lead foot's too far forward. Marcus frowns. Riley moves. What happens next will be talked about at Blackstone Academy for years. She doesn't fight four men. She flows through them like water. Marcus comes in first, predictable, overconfident. Riley redirects his momentum with a hip throw that sends him crashing into the trainee behind him. 2 down in 3 seconds. The third trainee tries to grab her from behind. Rookie mistake. She drops her weight, executes a perfect judo reversal, and he's on his back gasping before he understands what happened. The fourth trainee, a former Army Ranger who actually knows what he's doing, approaches cautiously. Riley respects that. She feints left. He doesn't bite. Good. They exchange strikes for maybe 10 seconds. A real exchange, technical and controlled. Then Riley sees the opening. She slips inside his guard, controls his elbow, and takes him to the ground with a joint lock so precisely applied that he taps out immediately to avoid injury. 4 men. 22 seconds. Riley stands in the center of the training mat, breathing slightly harder now but completely controlled. The entire academy is dead silent. Derek's face has gone from red to white. One of the trainees starts clapping, then another, then Jenna joins in, and within seconds the entire group is applauding. Marcus pulls himself to his feet, rubbing his shoulder. He looks at Riley with something like awe. Who the hell are you? But Riley doesn't answer, because she's not sure anymore. She thought she knew who she was when she walked away from Naval Special Warfare Center. She thought she could be someone smaller, someone quieter, someone who didn't carry the weight of all those missions, all those students, all those caskets draped in flags. She thought she could forget. But standing here, surrounded by trainees who are looking at her like, she just rewrote everything they thought they knew about strength. Riley realizes something. You can't unlearn who you are. You can only decide whether to hide it or use it. The academy director, a retired Navy captain named Elizabeth Cordero, had been watching from the admin building. She arrives at the training ground 15 minutes later. My office, she says to Riley, now. Riley expects to be fired. Instead, when the door closes, Captain Cordero pulls a file from her desk drawer. I did some digging after you were hired, Cordero says quietly. Your references were vague. Your resume had gaps, so I made some calls. She slides the file across the desk. It's Riley's real service record. Naval Special Warfare Center, Chief Combat Instructor, 8 years. Commendations from SEAL Team 3, Team 5, and DEVGRU. Cordero looks up. You trained operators. Why are you here? Riley's throat tightens. I needed to step back. I know what happened on that deployment. I know you lost students. Cordero's voice softens. But hiding your skills doesn't honor their memory, Riley. Using them does. Riley's eyes burn. Blackstone needs a real head of tactical training, Cordero continues. Derek's being reassigned. I want you to take over the program, full authority, design the curriculum, train these people the right way. Riley looks at the file, at her old life staring back at her. I don't know if I can, she whispers. You just took down 4 trained men in 20 seconds while making it look easy, Cordero replies. You can. The question is, will you? Riley sits in silence. The office feels too small, too quiet. Outside, she can hear the trainees still talking, still processing what they witnessed. She thinks about the last 3 weeks, about swallowing her knowledge, about letting Derek's incompetence put people at risk, about standing in corners and making herself invisible because she thought that's what safety looked like. She thinks about Jenna, pinned behind that barrel, panicking, and how close that girl came to giving up on herself because nobody taught her she was capable of more. She thinks about her SEAL students, the ones who made it home, the ones who didn't, and what they would say if they could see her now. "I'll do it," Riley says, "but I do it my way." Cordero smiles. "I wouldn't have it any other." That afternoon, Riley stands in front of the assembled trainees. Derek is gone. The room is quiet, nervous. Jenna sits in the front row, eyes bright with hope. "My name is Riley Matthews," she begins, "and I'm going to teach you how to survive." Marcus raises his hand. Are you really a SEAL instructor?" "Former," Riley corrects. "I trained Navy SEALs in close quarters combat. Now I'm here to train you, and I promise you this." She looks at each of them. "I will never let you fail because you weren't taught properly. I will push you. I will challenge you, but I will never humiliate you, and I will never let you quit on yourself." Jenna's hand shoots up. "Can you teach me what you did today, the disarm?" Riley smiles. Really smiles. "For the first time in months." "That's exactly what I'm here for." Over the following months, Riley rebuilds the entire program. The training becomes harder, more precise, more real, but also more respectful, more empowering. Jenna and the other female recruits flourish under Riley's instruction. Marcus becomes one of her most dedicated students, his arrogance replaced by genuine humility and skill. Word spreads throughout the private security industry. Blackstone Academy becomes known for producing the best-trained operators in the civilian sector. And Riley, the quiet woman everyone underestimated, becomes something she never expected. A legend. Not because she demanded respect, but because she earned it. 6 months later, Riley receives a letter. It's from Lieutenant Commander Dawson, her old commanding officer. "Heard you're back in the fight, different uniform, same warrior. Your students from class 219 would be proud. I know I am." Riley pins the letter to her office wall. Next to it, she places that photo from her closet, her last SEAL class, smiling despite the hell they were about to walk into. She doesn't hide anymore. She doesn't shrink. She stands tall because she finally understands that her strength was never the problem. The problem was a world that tried to make her apologize for it. And Riley Matthews is done apologizing. But her story doesn't end there, because 6 months of success doesn't erase 8 years of trauma. And just when Riley thinks she's found peace, her past comes knocking in a way she never expected. It starts with a phone call. Riley is in her office, going over training schedules, reviewing performance reports. It's late. Most of the staff has gone home. The academy is quiet except for the distant sound of someone running laps on the outdoor track. Her phone rings, unknown number. She almost doesn't answer, but something makes her pick up. "Matthews." There's a pause, then a voice she hasn't heard in over a year. "Riley, it's Dawson." Her hand tightens on the phone. Lieutenant Commander Dawson doesn't make social calls, especially not at 9:30 on a Tuesday night. "Sir, I need a favor, and before you say no, I need you to hear me out." Riley closes her laptop. "I'm listening." "One of your students from class 219, Petty Officer First Class Daniel Chen, he's struggling." Riley's chest tightens. She remembers Chen, brilliant tactician, quick learner, but young, maybe too young for the things he'd seen. "Struggling how?" "PTSD, bad. He's been through the VA, through counseling, nothing's sticking. He's talking about ending his career, maybe more than his career." The words land like a punch. "He asked for you specifically. Dawson continues. Said you were the only instructor who ever made him feel like he could handle what was coming. He needs someone who understands what he's been through. Someone who won't just give him a pamphlet and a phone number. Riley stands, walks to the window. Outside, the trainee is still running, lap after lap, pushing through exhaustion because someone taught them they could. I'm not a therapist, Riley says quietly. No, but you're someone who knows what it costs to carry this work, and you're someone he trusts. Riley is silent. I'm not ordering you, Dawson says. I'm asking, as someone who trained him, as someone who gave him the skills that kept him alive but can't give him the peace he needs now. Riley closes her eyes. She thinks about the 3 students who didn't come home, about the guilt she's carried, about the reason she walked away in the first place. But she also thinks about Chen, 24 years old, a good kid who wanted to serve his country and got more than he bargained for. Send me his information, she says. I'll reach out. Thank you, Riley. Don't thank me yet. She hangs up, and for a long moment she just stands there, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Because this is the thing nobody tells you about walking away. You can change your job, change your location, change your routine. But you can't change the fact that you trained warriors. And warriors carry scars. And some of those scars are yours to bear. Riley meets Chen 3 days later, not at Blackstone, not at some clinical office, at a quiet coffee shop in a town 30 miles away, neutral ground. He arrives 10 minutes early, sits in the corner, hoodie up, hands wrapped around a coffee cup he hasn't touched. Riley recognizes the posture immediately, the hypervigilance, the way his eyes track every person who walks through the door. She sits down across from him, doesn't say anything at first, just lets him see her, let him decide if he wants to talk. Finally, Chen looks up. His eyes are tired, older than they should be. I didn't think you'd come, he says. I came. I heard you left, heard you were done with all of this. I tried to be. Chen nods like he understands. Maybe he does. They tell you what happened, he asks. Dawson gave me the basics, but I'd rather hear it from you, if you want to tell me. Chen's jaw tightens. For a moment, Riley thinks he's going to shut down, but then he starts talking, slowly at first, then faster, the words spilling out like they've been trapped too long. He talks about the mission, about the compound, about the firefight that went wrong, about the call he made that saved 6 teammates but cost 2 others their lives. He talks about the math, 6 lives for 2, a good trade by any tactical measure. But math doesn't stop the nightmares. Everyone keeps telling me I did the right thing, Chen says, his voice breaking. That I saved lives, that I'm a hero, but I don't feel like a hero, I feel like a killer. Riley doesn't rush to correct him, doesn't offer empty platitudes. She just listens, because sometimes that's the only thing that matters. When Chen finishes, his coffee is cold, his hands are shaking. I don't know how to live with this, he whispers. Riley leans forward. I trained you to survive combat. I didn't train you to survive what comes after. That's on me. Chen looks up, surprised. I lost 3 students, Riley continues. 3 people I trained. 3 warriors who trusted me to prepare them for anything. And when they didn't come home, I blamed myself. I thought if I just taught them better, if I just pushed them harder, if I'd just seen something I missed. It wasn't your fault, Chen says. No, it wasn't, but I had to learn that, and it took me a long time. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. What you're carrying right now, it's not something you fix. It's something you learn to carry. Some days it's lighter, some days it's heavier, but it doesn't go away, and that's okay. How is that okay? Because it means you're human. Because it means those lives mattered to you. And because the fact that you feel this pain means you haven't lost the part of yourself that makes you worth saving. Chen's eyes fill. He looks away, embarrassed. Riley reaches across the table, places her hand over his. You made a call in an impossible situation. You saved 6 people, and you lost 2. Both of those things are true, and you get to grieve both. They sit in silence, the coffee shop bustling around them, normal people living normal lives, unaware that 2 warriors are sitting in the corner trying to figure out how to be human again. Finally, Chen speaks. What do I do now? You keep going. You find people who understand. You talk when you need to. You ask for help when the weight gets too heavy. And you remember that surviving doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger than you think. Chen nods slowly, like he's trying to believe it. Will you, he hesitates, will you keep in touch? I don't have a lot of people who get it. Yeah, Riley says, I will. And she means it. Because she's starting to realize something. Walking away didn't heal her. It just postponed the reckoning. Over the next few months, Riley meets with Chen regularly. Sometimes they talk about the hard stuff. Sometimes they just grab coffee and sit in silence. Sometimes Chen brings other veterans, guys from his unit who are struggling too. Riley doesn't have all the answers. She's not a therapist. She's not a counselor. But she's someone who's been there. And sometimes that's enough. At Blackstone, the training program continues to thrive. Jenna graduates at the top of her class, gets recruited by a high-end private security firm, sends Riley a thank you card that says, "You taught me I was stronger than I thought. Now I'm teaching others." Marcus becomes an instructor himself, starts his own defensive tactics course, quotes Riley in every class, gives her full credit, never takes the spotlight for himself. The academy doubles its enrollment, triples its reputation. Companies from across the country send recruits to Blackstone because they know Riley's name, know her methods, know that her graduates are the best in the business. But the part of Riley's work that means the most isn't the accolades. It's the letters. From Chen, from other veterans, from students who struggled and survived, from people who thought they were broken and discovered they were just healing. One letter in particular stays with Riley. It's from a former SEAL named Marcus Thompson, not her Marcus, a different one, someone she trained years ago, someone she thought had moved on. The letter is short, simple. You taught me how to fight, but more importantly, you taught me why to fight, not for glory, not for medals, but for the person standing next to me. I carried that lesson through 3 deployments, brought my whole team home. Thank you for making me believe I was capable of that. Riley pins the letter next to the photo, next to Dawson's note, next to Jenna's card. Her wall is filling up. Not with awards, with proof that her work mattered. One evening, Riley is locking up her office when she hears footsteps behind her. She turns. It's Captain Cordero. Got a minute? Cordero asks. Always. They walk out to the training ground. Empty now. Quiet. The setting sun casts long shadows across the obstacle course. I've been thinking about something, Cordero says. You've built an incredible program here, the best training academy in the civilian sector, but I think you could do more. Riley waits. There are a lot of veterans out there like Chen, good people who served their country and came home carrying weight they don't know how to put down. What if we created a program specifically for them? Not just tactical training, but reintegration, healing, purpose. Riley's heart skips. You mean? I mean turning Blackstone into something bigger, a place where veterans can come not just to train but to recover, to rediscover who they are beyond the uniform, to find community with people who understand. Cordero looks at Riley. You'd lead it, design it, make it whatever you think it needs to be. Riley stares out at the training ground, at the place where she faced down 4 men and decided to stop hiding, at the place where she learned that strength isn't about proving yourself. It's about using what you have to lift others up. I'd need help, Riley says. A team, people who have been through it, People who understand what it costs and what it takes. You'll have it, whatever you need. Riley nods slowly, then let's do it. 6 months later, Blackstone launches the Veteran Reintegration Initiative. It's not just a training program. It's a lifeline. Veterans come from across the country. Some are struggling with PTSD. Some are struggling with purpose. Some are struggling with the simple, brutal question of what happens when you take off the uniform and don't know who you are anymore. Riley and her team, a group of former operators and instructors who understand the mission, create a program that blends tactical training with mental health support, physical fitness with emotional resilience, skill development with community building. They don't fix people. They remind people they were never broken. Chen becomes one of the first instructors, turns his pain into purpose, helps other veterans navigate the same darkness he walked through. Jenna comes back to teach defensive tactics to female veterans, shows them that strength has no gender, that capability has no limits. Marcus runs a peer support group, tough guy who learned to be vulnerable, learned that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. And Riley, the woman who once tried to disappear, becomes the center of something larger than herself. She doesn't just train operators anymore. She saves them. 1 year later, Riley stands in the same spot where Derek once humiliated her, where she once felt small and powerless and invisible. But she's not invisible now. She's surrounded by dozens of veterans, people she's trained, people she's helped, people who have found their way back to themselves because someone showed them they were worth fighting for. Lieutenant Commander Dawson is there. He traveled across the country to see what Riley built. "You did it," he says. "You found a way to keep serving without destroying yourself in the process." Riley looks at the faces around her. Chen, Jenna, Marcus, Cordero, dozens of others. "I didn't do it alone," she says. "No," Dawson agrees. "But you started it. You chose to stop hiding, and look what happened." Riley smiles. "I almost didn't. I almost stayed small." "But you didn't, and that's what matters." That night, Riley sits in her office, the last one there, like always. She looks at her wall, at the letters, the photos, the thank you cards, the evidence of lives touched, lives changed, lives saved. She thinks about the woman she was a year ago, broken, hiding, convinced that her strength was a liability. And she thinks about the woman she is now, still scarred, still carrying weight, but using that weight to ground herself, to anchor others. She pulls out a piece of paper, writes a letter, not to anyone specific, just to the person she used to be. "Dear Riley," she writes, "you were never too much, you were never too strong, you were never too intense or too capable or too anything. You were exactly what you needed to be. And the world that tried to make you smaller was wrong, not you, never you. The strength you carry isn't a burden, it's a gift. And when you finally stop apologizing for it, when you finally stand up and use it the way it was meant to be used, you'll realize something. You were never hiding from the world. You were hiding from yourself, and you don't have to anymore. Love the woman you became." She folds the letter, tucks it into the frame with the photo of her last SEAL class. And she turns off the light. Because tomorrow, there will be more veterans to train, more lives to touch, more people who need to be reminded that they're stronger than they think. And Riley Matthews, the woman nobody respected, the woman everyone underestimated, the woman who almost disappeared, will be there to show them. Not because she's a hero, but because she understands something most people never learn. Dignity doesn't announce itself. Strength doesn't demand recognition. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to shrink, even when the whole world tells you to. Especially then.